Welcome to FedScoop TV. I'm Whitney Wyckoff. Here with me now at the Security Through Innovation Summit is Tim Ruland. He's the CISO of the Census Bureau. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, what is the #1 disruptor, in your opinion, in terms of security challenges that your organization currently faces?
I think the #1 disruptor is probably malware. That's still the #1 disruption, and protecting against it.
Okay. And many organizations want to move to the cloud, but adoption rates are slow in many areas, particularly because of security concerns. Any advice for organizations who want to ensure that security is built into the cloud?
What we've done at the Census Bureau, because we're starting to look into the cloud, is we've embedded a security engineer into the requirements phase. That provides us the input, the knowledge, and provides us a way to start driving those requirements early on in the development of a cloud strategy. So we're developing a cloud strategy first, and we're embedding security right at the beginning of that process.
Great, great. And one of the biggest challenges for security officers today, given the explosion of mobile and cloud and the Internet of Things, is reducing complexity. How can we reduce complexity in IT infrastructures while remaining innovative and secure?
One of the things that we found at the Census Bureau to eliminate that complexity is going to a process we call common control providers. We look across the enterprise, and if we see areas where a number of different organizations within the Census Bureau are having a similar problem, we look at making that an enterprise common control provider where IT will develop a solution that everybody can use. It means one person is managing it, which is the IT group, and the program areas don't have to worry about managing it themselves. So we begin to make it easier for them to do their mission and keep things a little simpler.
Great, great. And as you know, there's no shortage of news on cyber attacks. Hackers are becoming increasingly sophisticated. Lines between organized crime groups and nation-state sponsored cyber espionage is really blurring. With that in mind, what cybersecurity issues are keeping you up at night right now? And are there technology or policy answers to those challenges?
Well, I think what keeps me up at night is simply what we don't know. As you said, things are happening so quickly. It's kind of like playing the old whack-a-mole game that you used to see at the pizza places. We're constantly in a reactive mode. So that keeps me up at night. What's the next thing that we're going to see? To the second part of your question, I think it's a combination. It's technical and it's policy, and in that you have to have automated ways that you can monitor and identify issues, but you can't get rid of people. People are still going to be that final piece of the defense strategy. And so we can identify everything we need, but if we can't convince people of the threat, if we can't convince people of the need to address security, we're not going to get the resources we need, and it's not going to be an easy function to try and get there.
Okay, all right. And can you give us an update on where you are today in terms of your risk management framework?
We have spent about 4 years putting in place a risk management framework. When we started, we went with a proposal to our boss, my boss, the CIO, and we showed him what we wanted to do, and he thought it was great, but he said we weren't going to get any more resources. So we built a program in parallel to keeping everything running. Right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being finished, I think we're at about an 8, 7.5 to an 8. We started by getting program areas buy-in, by talking to system owners, to the director, to executives, all the way down to system and database administrators to find out what their pain points were with the old way that we did security. The next thing we did was, as we began to assess systems, we started from a business perspective. So the first thing we do is sit down and ask the questions of the business unit. what data do you use? How many people use the data? Is it publicly accessible? What would happen if something to the mission, if something happened to the data? What platform does it run on? And all these then make up the risk profile for the system, and each system has its own risk profile. By doing that, we're able to then adjust what controls we apply or require to be applied to each system, and we can assign numerical values. Working at the Census Bureau, anytime you can get things into numbers and statistics, it goes a long way.
Sure.
So we can now show people, system owners, and executives a risk score for a system that's based on an arbitrary set by us based on best practices, risk threshold. And we can show them exactly where they stand on that risk threshold, above, below. Below is where we want them. And more importantly, we can then show them which controls are adding how much value, how much increased risk, and how much it would cost to fix those controls. So they're actually able to sit down now and use risk management to say, I can't fix everything, but these are my highest risk contributors, so I'm going to attack these first. And that's going to lower my risk score. It's going to lower my overall risk posture. So we've got that piece firmly in place. At the same time, we're now scanning on a regular basis all of our systems for both compliance and vulnerabilities. And we're tying in the incident response and the situational awareness or the security operations center function so that it's a more of a circular loop. So if we see something of a technical security issue, it gets passed over to the risk profiler, so a system's risk can be adjusted. Likewise, if the risk profilers find something that we have to get a system in place with a little bit higher risk score, they can let the incident handlers and situational awareness team know, and they can monitor that system a little more aggressively until it gets under the risk posture level that we want it to be.
Okay, great. And now, cybersecurity leadership. What trends are you seeing in terms of the cybersecurity workforce, and what needs to be done to really ensure that we protect America's cyber infrastructure?
I think what I'm seeing, and I've been at the Census Bureau in charge of security for a long time, is just the diversity. It used to be that you could hire somebody for security and they would be a computer security specialist. Now you're looking and you have computer security specialists that are looking specifically at database, or are looking specifically at mobile, or looking specifically at some other technology that hasn't even been on the market yet. So trying to get that diversity where you have the right mix of people to address all those different things that are happening, all those different moving pieces, and still maintain a relatively level playing field so that our customers know what's expected is probably the most important thing and the biggest difference.
Great. All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you.
This is Whitney Wyckoff for FedScoop TV.